Hi. In the last video I said that the European Union is as interesting as watching cricket in super slow motion. I can imagine all the cricket fans in front of the computer shouting, "Just because you don't get it doesn't mean it's all boring." Well, I could say the same about the European Union. To me, the European Union in all its complexity is fascinating. As I pointed out in the last video, it is an institution which may have a bigger impact on our lives and the world as most other national parliaments. And it is not as undemocratic as many people say it is. I try to explain. The European Union consists of many institutions, but most important ones are the European Commission, the Council of the European Union, and the European Parliament. They make the laws. Most of the time, the Commission drafts a piece of legislation, then the Council and the Parliament argue about it, and finally it is made into law or it is abolished. Of course, it is way more complicated than this. So, yeah, but we'll look at it later. First, let's look at the Commission, which is often associated with bureaucratic faceless people who just want to regulate in what angle you have to drink your water. So let's have a closer look here. The European Commission is more or less the government of the European Union, the executive. Each member state sends one commissioner. The Commission president then assigns them to a certain resort. In the beginning, this made sense, but over the years, with every new member state came a new commissioner. So now there are 28 of them. There are commissioners for internal market and services, for trade and for economic and monetary affairs. There is as well a commissioner for environment, for maritime affairs and fisheries, as for climate action. It takes not much brain to see that there are some things that may fall into the jurisdiction of not one but 4 commissioners at the same time. It's like you have a soccer match, but you have not 22 but 28 people who want to play. And then you invent just 6 positions which make not much sense but give all people their right, even if they get in the way. And the 2/3 outer right striker gets the ball but stumbles against his teammate, the 1/3 outer right striker. He loses the ball and the enemy team gets quickly in front of the goal. The enemy shoots, but the ball is rescued by the player on the position 3rd goalpost. Yeah. So if this is redundant, why don't they change it? Well, they would like to, but the Commission itself has not so much power as it's sometimes thought of. The super bureaucratic monster is in fact on a leash. Well, not quite right. It is on 28 leashes and its masters all pull in other directions. It's kinda in his nature. This is also the way this monster was created. Probably most of you heard about the history of the European Union, so I'll make it quick. After the war, 6 countries in Europe were fed up to fight with each other and tried to put some of their economic areas under a so-called supranational institution. These countries were West Germany, Italy, France, and the Benelux countries, which are Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. In fact, it was not so easy because nobody wanted to give up their power. But then the United States, who just spent a whole lot of money on the war and then sent thousands of soldiers to die, was fed up with Europe and said, "Just fucking do it." So the heads of governments sat together and signed an agreement. Over the years, new treaties were signed, last one being the Lisbon Treaty. Every time such a treaty was reformed, delegates from all countries came together to sign these agreements. So the treaties are basically contracts between countries. It is always a hassle to write such contracts because you want everyone to sign them. Otherwise, the treaty won't get into action. Imagine a Belgian, a Dutch, a Luxembourgese or whatever they are called, a German, a French, and an Italian are sitting in a room. And it's not a joke. I think there is not much to compare it to. Well, maybe go around your neighborhood, ring 28 doorbells and ask everyone if you want a service firm which will plant some trees in your street, who keep the environment clean, and which secures the whole neighborhood against burglars. And then there is this one guy who is like, "Yeah, I don't like change. But burglars broke into your home 2 times this year. Yeah, I don't like change." So, since everyone has their say, there is not much changes to be made sometimes. In fact, with the Lisbon Treaty, the amount of commissioners should have been reduced, but then the population of Ireland held a referendum and said, "Ain't gonna happen, me lad." Since Ireland is a small country and it always fears to lose power against the big ones like Germany and France, they felt like losing a commissioner would mean losing power as well. So in the end, all countries decided that in this particular case, not much will change. So the Commission, the so-called government of the European Union, cannot decide how many commissioners they have, nor can they decide which names the resource have. In fact, everything the Commission is allowed to do is determined in the signed treaties. A recent study looked at 60 legislatory proposals and found out that the Commission itself could do very little in drafting pieces of legislation. The whole European Union got only full power in 4 policy areas: customs union, competition rules in the internal market, common trade policy, and monetary policy. In most of the other fields, and thus its government, the European Commission, has only shared competency. For example, in the area of social policy. But this would really go too deep right now, we come to that later. What important is to know here is that the European Commission may act on its own, but only in the boundaries of the treaties the European countries signed before. You may say the Commission does have a will of its own, but it can't really execute it. When we go back to this bureaucratic monster metaphor, you may very well say that the Commission has a lot in common with Frankenstein's monster. But not only that you have one mad scientist who just widely puts together some body parts, but you have got a whole lot of bunch of mad politicians whose countries fought against each other for hundreds of years, and now suddenly they come together to build something that may actually not kill thousands of people, but helps to communicate with each other. I mean, is it really surprising that out of this mess comes a soulless, unlovable creature? A soulless, unlovable creature which is even hated by the ones who created it? Seriously, the European Commission is basically the wall of shit of the member states. Whenever people want to throw shit at the head of the member states, be it Merkel, Cameron or Sobotka, the one responsible just hides behind the European Commission. In the academic literature, there is even a word for it: scapegoating. It's all the fault of the European Commission! Yeah, but didn't you guys create it? Yeah, but it's totally gotten out of hand! You mean you created a monster that you cannot control anymore? Well, no, of course not. We still have the power to scrutinize the legislation and eventually to block it. So you are saying that everything that comes out of the Commission runs through your hands? Well, yes. So why don't you block it when you don't like certain legislation? Well, sometimes I'm not in the majority. But isn't it normal in a democracy that when you're not in the majority, you don't have a say? Well, yeah, but it's all still the Commission's fault. Except when it was good. Then it was me. I'm not saying that the European Commission just consists of holy saints who do everything right. My point is, the European Commission is not as powerful as it is often considered. First, the Commission was created by the head of states and finds its limitation in the treaties which are signed by the head of states. Second, even if it may initiate a law, that doesn't mean the proposal will automatically be put into law. There are two institutions who look over it: the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union. And who do you think sits in the Council? Right, the ones who created this soulless monster. The ministers and kinda as well the head of states of the current governments. So follow me and discover the dark secrets of the masters of the European Union. But more on this on the next episode.